So that's a fig.
Yeah, but it's the second fruit, right? It's the second season. In December we get the first fruits, and they're just huge and amazing and juicy. These are a little bit more intense of flavor. Really good.
So, but I couldn't eat that now.
No, it's not ready.
It's not ready.
You have to wait till it's purple.
So it's out of season.
Out of season. Yes, it's out of season.
Welcome back to the Sunday Serving channel, where you come for words from the gospel. And what a beautiful day we have here. We're in New South Wales, Australia, and my friend, Sister Norann here.
Yeah.
And Norann has her own YouTube channel with her husband Chris, who's behind the camera today. And we're here in Danthonia community in Australia. Last week we did a take from the Copton Dam with the kids. That was fun.
It was epic. Yeah.
So here I'm just fascinated by all the flora and fauna you have down here. It's like paradise, really.
It is. It is.
And a fig tree. You know, in New York we don't get figs. And Norann was telling me how a fig is a complete food, right? Yeah,
it's full of nutrients. It's moist. It's like bread. It's like water. It gives you everything you need. And Jesus and his disciples, that would have been their go-to snack.
So
food.
they could just like wander through the countryside and live on figs.
Exactly.
And then sleep on them hills and keep going.
Yeah, and think how much walking they were doing. They would have needed the calories. They would have needed the carbs. So a message of hope is a fig, really. Yes, it is.
So it would be appropriate to find some Bible passage about figs. Of course, that one about the withered fig. We'll get to that one. I like that one. It has a lot in it.
Right.
But where else? What's your favorite Bible passage about figs?
Well, I love the one where it talks about when you see the bare fig branch and showing a tiny shoot, you know the kingdom of God is near. And I did not understand that passage until I lived here, because this tree during winter is literally dead. It looks like firewood.
It looks like a Dr. Seuss sort of squiggly thing.
And then suddenly you'll see these tiny little shoots and tiny little figs coming out. And you know, spring's on the way.
Figs come with the beginning of the sprouting?
So the very first thing actually that comes out is a tiny little lump that's a fig at the very end, like you see here. And it always signals, it's the first spring signal we get. And I can imagine the people in Jesus' time totally understanding to look for those signs of promise and hope. What's your favorite passage?
I love that. Of course, I don't know if I could say a favorite, but what I always think of first is Genesis 11.
Right.
Adam and Eve realized they were naked and they sewed together fig leaves.
Right.
And I was always trying to imagine, how do you do that? Norann, do you have any ideas how they?
Well, look at the one. Look at the leaves down there. They're pretty large.
Bigger.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You could get pretty creative.
So sort of that, you know, when you're kids, you would stick leaf crowns with little sticks. You think they did that?
Yeah. Well, it's an all-purpose tree.
But the other one I like from, I think it's Micah, has to do with conflict and war and peace and justice.
Yes.
Maybe we should start with that passage.
Yes.
I think it's Micah 4, about the mountain of the Lord.
Right.
Hey, you should read it. I do too much talking on these shows.
It shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established as the highest of the mountains. And it shall be lifted up above the hills, and the people shall flow to it, and many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples, and shall decide disputes for the strong nations far away. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. Great passage.
Wow, that's
great
powerful.
Passage.
So
I
love that, you know, every man sitting under his vine and fig tree. And we had the fig tree. We also have vineyards here.
Well, and you've probably noticed most of our houses here, we've got fruit around them, right?
Yeah.
We've got an olive tree, we've got oranges, we've got a fig, we've got some vines, and you can actually visualize.
Have you ever managed to sit under a vine or a fig tree and hate someone?
No, because you're usually with other people and you're sharing food and that hospitality and that invitation. Yeah. And also, I'm sure you've experienced here being in summer, the shade is kind of like a gathering spot.
Is.
And you invite someone over to your house, even if you've been resenting them when they arrive.
And in order to have shade, you got to plant a tree, right?
Yes, it's a lot of metaphors here.
There's so much to think about, and thank God for Be Hopeful. And I want you to see this mountain over there, a beautiful peak. What's it called, Swan Peak?
Swan Peak, yep.
It's actually on a rim of a volcano. And you know, this passage about the mountain of the Lord, go to the mountain of the Lord. There's something about mountains too.
Yeah.
So there's so much to take in here. We have enough time. Let's do another one. I like that from Mark 11.
Yes, yeah.
Why would Jesus curse the fig tree? It says it was not the season. Well, let's read this here. It's after, it's an Easter story really, leading up to Easter, because after Jesus came to Jerusalem and he had that triumphal entry that we celebrate on Palm Sunday with the donkey. That's a whole story in itself.
It is.
Like, the most important task for those disciples that morning was fetching a donkey.
Right.
Sometimes we think we're so important, but all we got to do is fetch a donkey. Okay, so here in Mark 11, starting at verse 12. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing in the distance a fig tree and leaf, so like you were talking about, the leaves were coming out. So it should have had some figs.
It should have had some figs, but it says it was out of season.
But it says here, exactly, it says, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs.
Which is about 2 weeks ago.
So
here.
Similar time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And he said to it, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. And then the story goes on. It talks about going into the temple. I don't know if we want to read the whole thing, but he found people buying and selling, profiting in the temple, and he got really angry.
Doing the money
and he took out a whip, and he cracked that whip, and that's actually kind of violent in a way.
Yes.
Chased him, overturned the tables. And I always thought that was about, you know, his concern that you can't serve Mammon and God at once. But actually, if you read this, let's see what he says here.
Yeah, keep going. It's amazing how he speaks.
It says he turned the tables over and drove the people out, and he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them, saying, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations. So there it is, the message of peace, of prayer, really. When we don't know what to do about something, we need to pray. And it'll go on and say that, how important it is to ask and believe for all the nations. I like that. But you have made it a den of robbers. So instead of praying to God for our daily needs and to solve our problems, we are buying and selling and trying to do it in our own power. And that's when the chief priests and scribes heard it and were looking for ways to kill him. And it says he went out in the evening. But then here we're back to the fig tree again. Australia, figs, vines, mountains, grass, flowers. They passed by. As they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered to its roots. So when Jesus that cursed it or said you won't bear fruit anymore, the tree actually withered, lost its leaves to the roots, it says. And Peter remembered and said, Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered. And Jesus answered them, and this answer, this is powerful. Listen to this. Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain over here, you must have had a mountain in the background, right?
Yes, they must have.
Be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Now, why would someone want to throw a mountain into the sea? I mean, but what I guess Jesus' point is that the impossible, the totally unimaginable, is possible if we believe. If we believe it and ask it. If we pray with faith in our hearts and ask it, it will happen. Therefore I tell you, and he says it, clear as figs, right? Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received, and it will be yours. And whenever you stand praying, forgive. That's powerful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Comes back to sitting underneath the fig tree and beating your swords into plowshares,
that peacemaking,
spears into pruning hooks.
And he's basically saying, if you come to him and realize there's some grudge we're carrying, some unforgiveness, if we don't let that go, our prayer will not have an abundance like the fig tree, like a vineyard in season. It's a very powerful image.
It's so important to forgive. Forgiveness. Unforgiveness is a cancer. It's a burden. that eats you up from the inside out and doesn't allow anything good to happen
It's like a withered fig tree.
in your life, in anybody's life.
Yeah.
And forgiveness, letting go, giving it to God, asking God to throw that mountain into the sea, that's the way to go. So here it says, if you have anything against anyone, forgive, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. So there, we all need to be forgiven.
It's an incredible promise.
Pray, believe, ask, forgive.
Yeah.
Eat figs.
Eat figs.
What more do you want? So God bless you.
God
If
bless
you haven't ever
all.
made it to Australia, come down, check out the fig trees, the vines, the mountains, the great people.
Yeah, please come and visit us. You're welcome
Hey,
any-
Bear, listen. That's his name, right?
Yes, that's his name.
You know, I miss my dog Remy so
I
much.
bet you do.
She likes to come on these videos. This little guy is great.
Isn't he awesome? He loves a good audience.
And does he like figs?
Yes, well, he likes them in little pieces, yes.
Okay.
He eats just about anything.
Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful week. We'll
Yeah.
see you again. Maybe, who knows where.
Who
but
knows where. Safe travels, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, your dog's going to go crazy when you get back.